Hi there all. Now, my apologies on not having done one of these videos in the past couple months. Been a bit busy, unfortunately. But in turn, I'm rather pleased that I've got this opportunity to show off something rather unique. A pre-release vehicle, and in this case, the AC4 Experimental, which is a Tier 6 premium British medium tank. Now, before we get started, I know undoubtedly the majority of you have noticed it has an uncanny resemblance to this thing, which I believe we all can agree on the fact was a very underwhelming, for lack of better word, Tier 4 premium tank. But no, even though it is the same chassis, there is one chief difference. This gun, the 17 pounder Mark 7, now that may sound familiar to some of you because it's on both of the British premium heavy tanks. So it is a Tier 7 heavy tank gun. Now, what's better still is the fact that looking at these stats, 12 rate of fire, 3.9 accuracy, 2.1 aim time. Let's take a quick look on the A45 just to show you how good this gun genuinely is. You've got a slightly lower rate of fire, which is to be expected since it's a Tier 6 tank, but you have the exact same accuracy and a better aim time to boot. So not only do you have better statistics with a slightly worse reload, it's still that Tier 7 heavy tank gun, 171 pen. That is exceedingly good for a Tier 6. It's very good in Tier 7 and workable in a Tier 8. And failing that, you've got this utterly stupid 239 pen APCR round on it, which will go clean through the front of an IS-3. So even at bottom tier, this thing performs incredibly well. And as I mentioned, this is still the same chassis as the Tier 4 AC1. You've got that 60 top speed with a roughly 11.5 power to weight ratio, which means, yes, you're going to go blisteringly fast downhill, but you're still going to get about 36 to 40 kph on flat surfaces, which this thing is not a static tank by any means thanks to that, so it's not a sit in a back sniper, which makes it very, very fun. Now, with all that little dabbling in stats we went over, we're going to go into a bit further detail towards the tail end of the video, but first we're going to take this thing into a physical match just to see how it plays, and better yet, in a bottom tier match to we're facing tier rates. So, without further ado, let's get right into that match. So we've got our little AC4 Sentinel on Serene Coast, and as I'd mentioned in the garage, as evidence of the IS-3A and lower balls M4043, Tier 8 Atty, haha. This is indeed a Tier 8 match. Now, what I would have done on this map to show you this thing's excellent gun depression is go out where we're looking at the moment, out on the western side over on the one line, to best make use of the gun depression on this tank and relative mobility. But as evidence of where the team's going, that would be pretty much a death sentence. So instead, we're going to head out here over on the 89 line and pull some close support, which is something this tank can excel at due to the penetration on the gun that we looked at, even if it's bottom tier. Because 171 pen, you don't need to do solely flanking shots as you need to, say, in a Cromwell, with regular AP at any rate. And even though we are doing close support, now we don't need to be the first one out front and get our jack seat shot off in short order, so we're going to let the enemy have a go at the rest of the lot. Oh, good. And the artillery gets rid of the TD out on island. But yes. As we go along here, at this 5100, there is another thing about this tank I want to stress. Watch this. You see how that's bloomed out? It aims in very, very quickly due to that 2.1 second aim time, but due to another factor, which you'll see as we push in, it has very good gun handling, despite not being able to use a vertical stabilizer. Look at that, 30 auto 2, way out in the back. Now you might say to yourself, no, that was RNG, just patting you on the back and letting you hit him. You're going to see again, when we push round on the base, how decent it really is. And here we go, popping this poor Tiger B. Poor buddy. Rather easily. Oh, 352. Don't want to play with that. Yeah, balls off the shot. But yes, going back on the note of the gun handling, tethered to the fact that it's got that good pen, good gun depression, good gun handling, it's just so fun to play this tank. I mean, there is nothing it does incredibly wrong outside the fact that it's armor. And of course, as soon as I say that 3.6 or an H somehow magically bounces off, and I have no clue how it is. But regardless, no, this thing does not have all that much armor on it. So, if you don't like squishy tanks, unfortunately, you may not find this thing as fun as I am. But I believe it speaks for itself, as you've seen. Everything else about it more than makes up for that, more than compensates. Now again, watch this. Going round the corner, shooting the 30 auto 2 on the move. Yes, it was close range, but still, gun handling on this thing is glorious. Perhaps not compared to the Easy 8, but the Easy 8 gets to use vert stamps. I still think it's on even footing. Ah, yes, and as you're seeing here, picking back up speed immediately, even on a slight depression in the land. It's got good enough mobility for what it is, so it's not some static snipers. That would have made me hate it, admittedly, so yes. It is still mobile enough to easily get around. Let's see if we can't pepper this eyes here. Took out sublead on the poor bugger. And as we mosey along, not looking at where we're driving, that's pretty much the usual for me. Going up here, we need to reset cap, but there is something that you will see as we come round here as another plus point for the tank, at least for me. It has a very small silhouette on the turret and a very high mounted gun. So you can pull off things like this. We pop that ISU and he's not able to hit us because he's got a center mounted gun and ours is high mounted on a very low profile turret. Now, that being the end of the match, let's go as usual have a look at the after battle report. Looking at the after battle, we made 40,000 credits, which when you consider the fact that we did 1,500 damage, tethered to the fact that we had a very low ammo cost, because you really don't need all that much premium ammo in this thing, I do believe this thing is going to be a rather decent credit earner. And I've said on many occasions, I don't play 2.6s all that much, so I don't have a good basis for that, but just take into account that expenditures will be low. That alone should make this a rather decent credit earner. Now, let's take a rather quick look at the stats on the vehicle compared to some what I believe to be comparable vehicles here within Takes GG. Firefly, obviously, because that's the Intectri counterpart, that should be closest to the AC4. The Schmaltum, a similar play style. T6 Premium take it at any rate. And then the Jackson, which is what I personally feel is the best analogue for this thing. Now, as we see, 1900 DPM, exact same as the Jackson, which means it's going to have better DPM than the Hellcat. Slightly better than the Schmaltum, and less than the Firefly, but I think you can afford it, the fact just because the AC4 is a bit more mobile. Now, I've said numerous times now, the penetration, 171, better than the Schmaltum, and surprisingly better than the Jackson. Average damage, 150, better than the Schmaltum, better than most mediums, for that matter, less than the Jackson, but it's a TD, so that makes sense. Now, going down and looking at the weapon handling, as you saw within the match, good aim time, better than the Schmaltum, less than the Jackson, but again, it's a TD, so that makes sense. 0.37 accuracy, which is, it seems a bit worse, but if you take into account that it's a T7 heavy tank gun on a T6 chassis, a mobile one at that is still very good accuracy, and 0.37 in and of itself is still good. 0.2 dispersion on movement, you saw it in the match, good. Better than the Firefly, better than the Jackson. But what we really care about on this weapon handling is the gun depression. I said it before, very good. It affords you a lot more versatility in this thing. And if you find yourself on some wonky terrain, you've got a modicum of certainty that you can get the gun down. Now, going on into the movement, you do have a top speed of 60, but you've got to take into consideration that you're rocking a 12 to 1 horsepower per tonne. That is not to say that this thing is slow, but on flat surfaces, you're pretty much relegated to 35, 40 kph. Now, if you're going uphill, bit of a problem. 9 to 15, depending on the incline, so it's not going to be taking those advanced positions like a Cromwell or something of that sort, but it's got enough mobility to get around. Train resistance, pretty much standard fare. It's not bad enough to create any problems. Turret traverse, 45 degrees, very quick. Track traverse, 40, good enough for flanking, well, getting round heavy tanks at any rate. Now the armour on it, 65, 45, 45. I said it within the match, it's not really going to bounce any shells. Perhaps if you're top tier and you've got a tier 4 or a tier 5 shooting at you, you may bounce a shot here and there. And Tanks GG apparently hates the AC4 because it's got 0 listed on the side of the turret, which I know is incorrect. I think it's 40 or so. Now HP, 750, standard fare, a bit higher than the Schmaltum though. Engine, HP, track HP, AMRAC HP, nothing bad, so your engine's not going to be knocked out all that much, or the AMRAC going on it. Now the view range, tethered to the camo. Takes GG, as I said, apparently hates this thing, but the camo percentage is, I believe, in the mid-4s. Actually, better yet, if you look at the beginning of the video, I believe it showed it there. View range of 360, slightly below average, but still rather good. Fire chance 20%, but I think it has a rather small hitbox on the engine, so I played it quite a bit, haven't caught on fire yet. Now, taking all of those stats into consideration, is this something that you want to look at picking up? Honestly, the only reasons I believe that would dissuade you from picking this thing up are the fact that it's not as quick as a Cromwell, but that thing's lightning fast. So if you can get away with the fact that this thing is just about as mobile as a Jackson, or better yet, a M4 Sherman, you'll be fine with this. But if you don't care for things that aren't blistering fast and they're medium, you may want to shy away from this. The other factor is it's not all that well armoured. 65, 40, 45, as I said. But let's face facts, the only things that are really armoured in this tier for a medium are the EZ2 and formerly the 361H, which is a heavy tank now, so I wouldn't say it's really all that bad of armour, so that should not be a point that you want to hang on to and take you away from picking up the tank. Though again, very, very good pen. It makes for an exceptional sniper, and better yet, as I stated at the very beginning, you've got that rather handy 239 pen APCR round, so one of the other main selling points is if you're bottom tier, you're still going to be doing damage with this thing. So overall, I honestly think it's worth picking up. I've been having very good fun with it. If you're bottom tier, it does perfectly fine. Now, since I neglected to do this at the beginning, for the equipment on it, curtain optics, it's already got decent view range. You may want to stress it, potentially outspot the mediums if you're on the move. Though, if you want to play a bit more of a static sniper, toss the Bidix on it. You'll do fine with that as well. Now, for the second piece of equipment, gun rammer. Let's face it, if you can run it, run it. And lastly, this is pretty much up to you. Whatever you prefer, whatever strikes your fancy. It has good aim time, but you can stress it even further by putting an enhanced gun lane drive on it. Or, if you're fine with the aim time and you want to just stress all the other stats on the vehicle slightly, put ventilation on it. Or, if you ain't been stuck out in the open, or perhaps if you don't have that good of a repair crew, put a toolbox on it. That would do just fine as well. As an end note, thank you all very much for watching, and as I said at the very beginning, I know it's been some time since I've actually done one of these videos, but it was darn good fun. So you can expect more of this on hopefully a more consistent basis again, and better yet, some opportunities pending doing more of these preview videos of tanks that aren't out yet, because as much fun as I have them, it's even more fun being able to come on here and give you tastes, as we did in the replay, of how these things will actually perform before you go out there and spend your gold on them. And with that said, you all do take care.